everyone. Welcome back to Relax with Animal Facts. I am Steph Wolf, and today I am going to be learning with you about our furry, scaly, or possibly even slimy friends. And in today's case, it is definitely going to be an animal of the slimy variety because we are covering the oh so wonderful dolphin. So this, of course, is a very special listener episode dedicated to Jordan, who wrote in via email all the way from Colorado. So thank you so much for writing in. This podcast episode would not be possible without you, and this podcast wouldn't be possible for each and every one of you listening out there. So I am oh so grateful that you guys continue to write in, say just such nice things, and request animals to hear about. So if you want to have your animal on the podcast, you can write into the show either through Instagram by following Relax with Animal Facts and sending me a message, or you can go and email relaxwithanimalfacts@gmail.com. Either one is going to work. And now we're going to move on to a review coming from Rebecca Rates Podcasts on Apple Podcasts. Rebecca writes, "So relaxing. This is exactly what I was looking for as a bedtime podcast. Interesting enough that my mind doesn't wander, but soothing enough that I can drift off peacefully. Love it." So thank you so much for that wonderful review of yours, Rebecca. It means so much to me when you dedicated fans out there leave reviews for the show. And I think you hit the nail right on the head there. I tried to make this podcast in a way that it is a mix of both interesting and calm, and maybe for some boring, but for some that could be exactly what they're looking for, which is great. And if you want to help support the show, doing what Rebecca did and leaving those 5-star reviews are something that can really, really help support the show and bring more people to our little animal podcast family. So for me and for all of us, it is the more the merrier. I love when people can get some relaxation and stuff and education out of these episodes. So if you want to support the show, you can follow if you're on Spotify or if you're on other podcast sort of networks there, or you can leave a review on wherever you are, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, wherever you listen. If there's anything you have trouble finding, you can always go to relaxwithanimalfacts.com, and on there's going to be a bunch of those links that can help you guys get there. So no more dilly-dallying. Why don't we start getting ready for the show? So I'm going to do this with you guys. If you can sort of look throughout your body here and scan your body and see maybe where you're carrying some of your tension. For some of you, it'll be in the neck. For some of you, it might be in the legs, in the chest, in the shoulders. Wherever it is, just notice that it's there and try your best to let go as you go into this immersive experience with me, Steph Wolf, into the open oceans where the dolphins reside. I got my facts from uk.wales.org. On that awesome website, they have so much information with a variety of sea creatures and marine animals. Dolphins is just one of many, and they are very thorough and have a bunch of ways that you can help support marine ecosystems and different vulnerable species, which is just so great. So the first fact is that there are currently 42 species of dolphins and about 7 species of porpoises. Now, porpoises is a word that we might not necessarily know what it means or how it is different from dolphins. So don't worry, a little bit more into the facts, we're going to cover that. Dolphins are marine mammals. They must surface to breathe air and give birth to live young. So going up to the surface is going to be for those two primary purposes. A dolphin pregnancy can last between 9 and 16 months, which is a very, very long time, I think, if you compare it to other animals that are close to its weight and its physical size. So the mother feeds her offspring on milk, which is what makes the dolphin a mammal, and the sons and daughters of resident orcas stay with their maternal family for life. So that 9 to 16 months, that is known as a gestation period. We sometimes use that word on the podcast. And it's always cool to see the differences between species because it is not always going to be the same for animals of a similar size. We learned on the elephant podcast, on the elephant episode, for example, that they have a gestation period, the longest gestation period that of any animal, any land animal that is. And here we have the dolphin having a somewhat longer gestation period as well than what is considered to be normal. Dolphins will eat fish, squid, and crustaceans. They do not chew their food, but they may break it into smaller pieces before swallowing. So this fancy way for, I'm going to use the word fancy, although it might not be the proper lingo, but we have different kinds of digestion as human beings, right? We have mechanical digestion that happens in different areas, but it's primarily in the mouth, right? We have teeth are going to be what really serve that purpose, while the chemical digestion process will mostly be done in the stomach through the breakdown of food with different acids and stuff that we have in our body. So while dolphins might not have as much mechanical digestion right off the top, they're still going to have the other processes of chemical digestion and other mechanical digestion that happens further down along the digestive tract. And you might be wondering, how many teeth do they have, or what are their teeth? Do dolphins even have teeth? That it has to be a top search result on Google. So all dolphins have conical shaped teeth. A rhesus dolphin has 14 teeth, while a spinner dolphin can have 240. So here we see a big difference between species. Because we have 42 species of dolphin and 7 species of porpoise, we see here that there can be such a large difference. It could be behavioral, but it could also be physical, like with the rhesus dolphin and spinner dolphin having a difference of over 200 teeth, which is just simply amazing. The largest dolphin is known as the orca, the killer whale. We have covered the orca on a previous episode, and that is just so cool. The smallest in comparison to the orca are the Hector's dolphin and the Franciscana, which by comparison are very, very different physically. So at the top of the show, we said how we were going into the open oceans where the dolphins live. But there is a case in which there are river dolphins. So there are a total of 4 river dolphin species that inhabit the large waterways of Asia and South America. And I've seen them in documentaries before. It is simply surreal to see these dolphins in such a setting. So while most dolphin species are going to be in the open oceans, there are dolphins that prefer the sort of more closed spaces of rivers. And one of the things that really strike me, and maybe strike a lot of you out there, are the array of vocalizations that dolphins have, right? We know sort of those clicks and whistles and squeals that they do, and these are fairly well-developed forms of communication. And they also use something that we have covered on the podcast before, which is echolocation. So animals will use sound and how that sound bounces off the surrounding surfaces and area. They will know sort of where they are in space and very accurately I think echolocation as a human would be something that would be very cool, but also very irritating to those around you. For the dolphin, it might be fairly normal to go around clicking and whistling and squealing, but if I, as a human, by comparison, were to walk around a public park and squeal and scream to see where I am in space, we could see how that could be maybe a little bit uncomfortable for those around me. But for the dolphins, they don't mind at all. So while sometimes I like to compare animals to humans and how that would look, I suppose with these illustrations, with this kind of illustration, it's kind of comical if we try to see what we would be like if we were to use echolocation. So dolphins generally are going to be living for some time. So the lifespan varies from about 20 in the smaller dolphin species to about 80 years or more for those larger dolphins such as orcas, which is amazing to think of these wonderful creatures as living to that life expectancy of us humans. The Maui's dolphin, which is a subspecies of the New Zealand dolphin, is the most endangered. There are actually less than 50 individuals currently remaining in the world. So unfortunately, that is not good news for the Maui's dolphin, and I'm sure there are different ways to help other dolphin species to continue to prosper and not become endangered like the Maui's dolphin. So let's talk about these river dolphins for a second. Some of these guys might actually be a good candidate for just a separate episode. But river dolphins such as the Amazon river dolphin and South Asian river dolphins, they will live their lives only in freshwater rivers and lakes a long ways away from the ocean. And they are sometimes known as the true river dolphins. There is another group of so-called river dolphins, and these are freshwater populations of marine dolphin species, some of whom permanently live in freshwater rivers. And these include I apologize if I really butcher these names here, but we have the Sotalia dolphin, the Guyana dolphin, the Irrawaddy dolphin, and the finless porpoise. Now, that word porpoise, what does it mean? So porpoises are smaller than dolphins. They are less than about 2.5, like 2.5 meters, which is about 8 feet long. So they're going to be less than that. And they are also going to look just a bit chunkier than dolphins. And they will have a smaller head, little to no beak, and just a small triangular dorsal fin, dorsal meaning posterior or on the back. This is, of course, with the exception of the finless porpoise. And porpoises and dolphins are also going to have a different teeth or tooth shape. Porpoise teeth are spade-shaped, while dolphins are going to have that conical shape that we talked about earlier. So it seems as though the porpoise and the dolphin are separated merely by some physical characteristics. So while they might look similar, they do have some of those key characteristics that are going to differ and put them in the porpoise category or put them in that dolphin category. So let's talk about how dolphins are different from fish. They differ in a number of ways. Both dolphins and fish have adapted to live their whole lives in the water. Both have those bodies that are those bodies and fins that are made to sort of be in the water. But dolphins are mammals, so they will regularly need to visit the surface to breathe air to survive. Otherwise, they would drown. Fish, on the other hand, extract oxygen from the water and do not need to surface at all. I find this next fact super interesting, and it's that researchers suggest that dolphins evolved from land mammals whose legs were underneath their bodies. And as a result, the dolphins will move their tail up and down instead of side to side like a normal fish does. So this difference in their biomechanics, how they move anatomically, is something that researchers suggest has to do with the species that it has evolved from over millions of years. Dolphins are warm-blooded and have blubber to keep warm. Fish are cold-blooded and are able to adjust to different temperatures of the water without the need of that extra bit of body fat to keep them warm. So blubber is something that is used by many of those very, very large sea creatures in order to stay warm. And most fish species are also known to lay eggs and lay up to hundreds of eggs in a single year. Dolphins give birth to a single baby once every 1 to 6 years and then feed their babies milk, unlike fish, right? So those are the ways in which dolphins get their own special spot among sea creatures. Let's talk about the fastest dolphin, the Usain Bolt of dolphins. Well, the Dall's porpoises are very speedy swimmers, and they can reach up to 35 miles per hour, which is 56 kilometers per hour for those of you that use kilometers. When they swim at high speeds, they create unique fan-shaped splashes of water called rooster tails, and this is what is used to identify these guys while they're at sea. The only other dolphins that are able to reach similar speeds to that of the Dall's porpoise is the orca, of course, which is also a very, very fast swimmer. Now, what is a group of dolphins called? Well, a group is called a pod. We have had animals on the podcast before that form groups called pods. They are very social animals that love to interact with one another, protect each other, swim together, and also hunt for food as a team. And pod life plays a very, very important role in protecting dolphins from different kinds of predators. And most pods will contain anywhere from 2 to 30 dolphins, depending on the species and the situation. But there are occasions in which they will form what are known as superpods of about 100 or even a few thousand dolphins. That would be quite a sight to see, although I am not so confident in how often this happens in nature. So for those of you that are new to the podcast, I always love to end an episode with a fact that has something to do with the name dolphin. Well, the name dolphin comes from the ancient Greek Delphis, which means more or less fish with a womb. So this is an apt description of the dolphin because, as we know, they are mammals in the sea who give birth rather than having eggs laid like many other sea creatures do. What a fun episode. Thank you again, Jordan, for the wonderful suggestion. And if you want to have your animal on the podcast, you can go ahead and send an email to relaxwithanimalfacts@gmail.com, or you can go to Instagram and follow Relax with Animal Facts and send me a message. I reply to each and every one of you. I want to give a quick shout out to those of you who support me either via Patreon or via PayPal. If you want to help support the show in that way, you can go to relaxwithanimalfacts.com and you'll find all the info there right at the top. So a big thank you to those of you who support the show in this way during these tough times. I am so grateful to you, and I am grateful to all of you listeners out there. I hope you have had a good start to 2021 and going into the new year, and I will see you on the next podcast episode with the next animal. Take care.